Don't forget to pick up your copy of Football Game Plan's latest book release, The Go-Go Offense by Coach Brendan Marion, as Coach Marion takes you through the ins and outs of his offense, the most explosive offense in college football that's lighting up the scoreboards and tearing up the college football fields. You can pre-order your copy today by going to footballgameplan.com/go-go-offense. Welcome to Football Game Plan, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the Playbook. Mike McCarthy is your producer today. It's the summertime and preseason is just around the corner in the NFL, and we'll get you ready for the upcoming 2019 NFL season as we preview the Oakland Raiders. Now, as we kick off the season preview, let us take a look at some of the key storylines heading into the season as we go into our 4-minute offense.
Over in Oakland, newcomer Antonio Brown adds an unparalleled resume and skill set. A 4-time All-Pro and 7-time Pro Bowler, Brown brings explosive playmaking ability to Jon Gruden's offense. But as Ben Roethlisberger knows, all that talent comes with some baggage. Antonio Brown's combination of speed, route running, and after-the-catch movement are sure to be a great asset to the Raiders' offense in 2019. They just hope that Brown meshes well with Derek Carr. Speaking of Derek Carr, he's coming off a rough season where he only won 4 of the 16 games he started as a first-team quarterback. He did throw, however, for 4,049 yards, but he only added 19 touchdowns and took 51 sacks and had 20 turnovers. Jon Gruden is a coach that loves quarterback competition, as evidenced with his time as a head coach down in the Tampa Bay. In 2020, the Raiders are moving on from Oakland to Las Vegas, where their new stadium is expected to be opened in August of that year. The team last season was playing in the Oakland Coliseum, and it's a major factor in why the Silver and Black were selected to be the subject of this year's Hard Knocks. When this season premieres, be sure to keep an eye out for the story of Josh Jacobs, who used to live in his car in high school before becoming a star running back at the University of Alabama. Josh Jacobs was one of 3 first-round picks the Raiders made in 2019. Fellow first-rounders Clelin Ferrell and Jonathan Abram are the cornerstone pieces to a new era of Raiders football. The 3 college stars were highly touted by general manager Mike Mayock for their outstanding on-the-field talent and leadership off the field. Jacobs will look to be the bell cow running back to upgrade to 30th ranked run offense, while Ferrell and Abram will look to upgrade to 23rd ranked total defense.
It's time to put this team under the microscope and go position by position to see where they stand as we head into the 2019 season, and we'll start on the offensive side of the ball at the quarterback position. Derek Carr is entering his 6th season in the NFL, and I feel as though he's primed for a season like he had back in 2016. Firstly, I don't believe Carr to be a bad quarterback. I think he does a lot of things really well, actually. Consistency at all levels of the field is where he has to get better, and that's where the Raiders want to see him get better this upcoming season, and for him to trust his options what he sees out there on the field and push the ball down the field a bit more vertically. They've beefed up the options around him, which could yield those desired results, and Mike Glennon gives them a stable, capable number 2 at the position. The potential within the running back group is definitely pointing in the right direction. The question is if we'll see it realize itself this upcoming year. Now, the Raiders took Josh Jacobs out of Alabama in the first round this past April to be the lead dog in the backfield, giving them a versatile back that's capable of doing damage on both ends of offense. Now, he definitely has the skills, but does he have the ability to carry the load like that and like they're asking him to do so, seeing that he wasn't that guy at Alabama? And just in case he begins to hit a rookie wall per se, the Raiders brought back Doug Martin after signing Isaiah Crowell, who was lost due to injury, to take some of the load away from Jacobs. They're also expecting contributions from both Jalen Richard and also Chris Warren as well. I'm excited about the receiving core for Oakland this year. Bringing in future Hall of Famer Antonio Brown was huge, as it gives Carr a bona fide go-to option. That's also a game breaker. What I thought was underrated this offseason was also bringing in Tyrell Williams in free agency. His arrow is pointing up as he's just starting to enter his prime and coming to his own as a threat, and will be a perfect complement to Brown. 2 more options in J.J. Nelson and Ryan Grant were also added to compete for slot duties. Grant has a route savvy to consistently find himself open, while Nelson has the deep speed to threaten coverage. Rookie Hunter Renfrow out of Clemson is also in the mix for that starting slot role as well. Undrafted rookie free agent Keelan Doss out of UC Davis was a big-time playmaker in college, but has good all-around game that could help him make a dent into the depth chart. And the team also loves the development of Marcel Aitman this upcoming season as well. At tight end, Darren Waller figures to be the guy in this unit as the former wide receiver turned tight end. drew rave reviews from John Gruden all offseason. Everywhere else is up for grabs, with Luke Wilson being the favorite to be the second tight end, and it'll be interesting to see how Foster Moreau looks as a pro, as he was criminally underutilized at LSU and played well down at the Senior Bowl. Along the offensive line, a lot of the focus will be on the tackle position, as the team brought in Trent Brown from the New England Patriots, who played well at left tackle, and they're going to move him to the right side. This shows the confidence that they have in last year's first-round pick, Colton Miller, to make significant strides in year two. If Miller can hold his own, then the Raiders will have two excellent bookends. I think they're good on the interior with Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and Denzel Good. You can also add Richie Incognito to the mix, but outside of him serving as suspension to begin the year, how effective can he be after taking some time off is still yet to be seen. I also like Brandon Parker and undrafted rookie free agent Tyler Rome out of San Diego State as solid depth guys on the outside. Now here is how I graded the offensive units for Oakland. On the defensive line, the focus will be on the edges, as in a surprise move at pick number 4, the Raiders selected Cleveland Ferrell out of Clemson to help jumpstart their anemic pass rush. Later in the draft, in the 4th round, they also selected Max Crosby from Eastern Michigan. Those two, along with Arden Key, are expected to help lead the Raiders from the basement of the NFL in sacks to much bigger heights. Now, the question remains if that'll happen. I do like the interior of the Raiders' defensive front, as there are some difference makers here with second-year players Maurice Hurst and P.J. Hall. The good news is that they also get back Justin Ellis from injury, giving them another key cog in the middle. Also, Jonathan Hankins played well last season as a run defender, and I would also keep an eye out for Ronald Ali out of Nichols. He has good versatility and shows strong closing speed to the quarterback. Now, with a few more questions at the second level, the Oakland Raiders went out and signed both Brandon Marshall and Vontaze Burfict to help strengthen the unit. Marshall comes over from the Denver Broncos, while Burfict was a long-time Cincinnati Bengal. I think second-year player Jason Kabinda could be in the mix for a starting role. I really like his game. I also like the game of Markel Lee, but he has to find his consistency in order to put a stranglehold on that position, or he figures to lose out to veteran Tahir Whitehead. James Cowser provides depth and the ability to blitz from the second level, and it will be interesting to see how rookie 7th-round pick Quentin Bell factors into the mix. The athletic Bell was a former wide receiver turned defensive end at Prairie View A&M, and now has a good chance to provide a pass rushing presence coming from the second level. Where the Raiders defense will be much improved in 2019 is in the secondary. They were already trending in that way last year with the play of both corners, Nick Nelson and Gary Conley. Both were really strong in coverage last season. Also, safety Carl Joseph started to play much better as well. This year, they add nickelback Nevin Lawson to the mix and drafted two solid players in Trayvon Mullen out of Clemson and Isaiah Johnson out of Houston, who graded out really high for me at Football Gameplan Scouting. Oakland also upgraded at safety as well with LaMarcus Joyner and first-round pick Jonathan Abram out of Mississippi State. Joyner gives them a versatile move piece that's capable of playing anywhere in the secondary, while Abram has a lot of Rodney Harrison to his game and should be fantastic right out of the gate. Keep an eye on undrafted rookie free agent Dylan Maben out of Fordham, who's an athletic press corner with return skills. When we look at Jordan Richards, Curtis Riley, and Darryl Worley, they strengthen the depth here on the back end. Now here is how I graded out the Raiders' defensive units. What no one is talking about when you bring up the Oakland Raiders is how explosive this offense could potentially be in 2019 because of the personnel that they've added in the offseason via free agency and in the draft. They may be able to light up the scoreboard a lot in the Bay this upcoming year. I'm going to explain how. They bring in Antonio Brown, they bring in J.J. Nelson, who has world-class speed, and they brought in Tyrell Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers, and they drafted Josh Jacobs out of Alabama. All guys have speed, explosiveness. We know he's a shifty guy, but we're going to utilize him in the passing game, which I thought was something that Alabama did really well while he was in college. We'll bring J.J. Nelson over in motion and work him right down the middle of the field, pushing up that hash. Again, it's just simple to me to run full verts when you have all this speed. Speed causes problems. It causes people to panic. It causes people to be a little bit extra cautious. So you're going to keep both safeties in the back because of the speed, because you don't want to get beat one-on-one. The problem with that, you're going to have 4-on-2, so it's up to Derek Carr to figure out which is the best option, who has the best leverage, and then allow them to get the football, because he does have an arm to where he can strike deep down the field with good velocity. Because we're vacating Nelson from right to left. We're going to replace him with Josh Jacobs running right down the hash. Then we're going to have Antonio Brown running deep down the field takeoff, and Williams going down the field as well. So 4 verts. You can get a 2-on-1, 3-on-1, however they want to play it back deep, whether it's cover 1 or cover 2. You read the safety, you see if there's 2 back there or if there's 1, and you find which one of your receivers has the best leverage, who has the step, who has the advantage. Get them the football. Football is not that hard, and I think with the Raiders' speed and explosiveness and personnel, they'll make it look a lot easier on offense this upcoming season. Building off what the Raiders could potentially have on offense, let's take a look at their defense and what could possibly be with their 3rd first-round pick, Jonathan Abram, the outstanding strong safety out of Mississippi State, who was my #1 strong safety prospect in this year's draft class. They have done a good job in reshaping this defense. I thought Nick Nelson played really well last year before getting injured or battling through injuries. Gareon Conley had a really good year last year in coverage. Finally, he was able to play the full season, be healthy, play really well. And they brought in LaMarcus Joyner from the Los Angeles Rams, who's one of those good combo safeties. He can play nickel, he can play strong safety, he can play back deep. He gives you a lot of options because he has good ball skills. He has that dog in him that I like, and he has really good instincts. And you see where Jonathan Abram is. Now, if they want to, they can move him around. I forgot to mention Nevin Lawson as well, slot corner they picked up via free agency, very good slot corner. But Abram is a guy that I think is so stout versus the run. You don't have a problem with him playing at the line of scrimmage because he does a good job using his hands. If you want to blitz him off the edge, you can. You can even, try to crash him down inside. Either way you want to do it. He can match up one-on-one versus tight ends as well. He gives the Raiders options defensively. They want to play him back deep and send him on some sort of safety blitz, a delayed pressure. He can do that. I think the reason why they added him was to bring a little bit more aggressiveness and nastiness to the defense. Quietly, they have 2 solid cover guys on the outside in Nick Nelson out of Wisconsin and Gareon Conley. They want to add another 3rd safety and move him back to maybe a nickel linebacker and bring in Carl Joseph. They can do that. Adding Abram, in my opinion, gives them versatility and flexibility within their defense, which I think will be vastly improved this upcoming season.
Rounding out the AFC West and the AFC as a whole, we look at the Oakland Raiders. I actually kind of like Derek Carr this year. Derek Carr, I don't think that he has the opportunity to be a true top 10 quarterback, but I think he could be a fringe starting quarterback, 12 to 14, because he has weapons, and I think he has some talent. No matter what people want to say about him, I think that he's got some talent. So he's a guy to look out for, especially if you can get him late in drafts. He can end up falling to you in the 14th round, and he can end up being your actual starting quarterback for most weeks. Running back position, Josh Jacobs is the guy. Sponsorship, like I said earlier, stealing from Lou Reddick. They drafted him in the 1st round. They like Jacobs. I think he was the 2nd most talented running back in the draft. We'll talk about the guy I think was by far the #1 most talented running back in the draft later. But Josh Jacobs is going to get carries. Jalen Richard is someone that you put on your roster as a PPR guy, especially in deep leagues, but I don't think he's going to get a lot of burn this year. Get to Antonio Brown. Let's go ahead and be honest. Whether you believe Antonio Brown has fallen off or that he's going to struggle because he's no longer with Ben, if you can get Antonio Brown where Antonio Brown is going in mock drafts, meaning the end of the 2nd round, if you were able to have the #1 pick and you turned Saquon Barkley with the #1 overall pick and Antonio Brown with the 24th pick, say, bro, you eating. That's all I can say. I have to say it exactly like that. Say, bro, you eating. He didn't go away. He's not going to go away. And because they paid him all that money, they're going to give him the doggone ball. Period. There's a case to be made that Antonio Brown can go at the end of the 1st round. He can go in the 10th, 11th, 12th pick. There's a case to be made. Me personally, I take him at 14 and 15 right there. Because there's some running backs to take him over, but he's going at the 24th and 25th pick. Yikes. Terrell Williams, I don't think that he's going to have good numbers this year from a consistency standpoint. They're going to feed Brown. They're going to run the ball. And I think Terrell Williams will end up suffering because it'll be what do? We might as well put the best or big body cornerback on him, and then we'll double team Brown, but it never works like you think it will. From a tight end standpoint, they have Darren Waller currently listed as their starting tight end. Former receiver who kind of made the move to tight end because he was a big body guy out of Georgia Tech. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe because of some physical traits worth a flyer, but no more than a 16th round pick if you just want to get a second tight end just to try it out and see. Maybe you'll get a little lightning in a bottle like Julius Thomas about 7 or 8 years ago.
Troy Anthony here, bringing you the best bets for the Oakland Raiders. The Raiders' win line opens up at over/under 6 games. They have some work to do on the defensive side of the ball, so at -106, I'm taking the under 6 wins this season. They have a tough schedule as they have to go against the NFC North and the AFC South, and they are already in a very tough division. They have a new starting running back in rookie Josh Jacobs. I think Josh Jacobs can definitely be in contention for Offensive Rookie of the Year, so at +700, that's definitely not a bad bet. I do also like the over/under for Antonio Brown's receiving yards. At +102, I'm taking the over 1,250 receiving yards. I believe Carr is going to force the ball a lot to Antonio Brown this year, and he'll easily eclipse that mark. Troy Anthony here. Follow me on Twitter @FootballFandom, replacing the O's with zeros.
I'm David Hatsagen, and this is Huddle Up with Hatsagen. We're going to fire some quick takes for the Oakland Raiders in 2019, starting with their breakout candidates. Emery, who stands out?
Darren Waller, the tight end. He was a wide receiver at Georgia Tech in that option offense and has transitioned to tight end at Baltimore. I want to say he was, now he gets over to Oakland. John Gruden can't stop talking about him. So that tells me they're going to feature him a lot.
Yep.
He's going to be a starting tight end there for the Raiders offense. And defensively, Nick Nelson, who quietly played really good football for them last year. Outside of the cornerback, Gary Conley, Nelson had a really good year. I think he's going to build on that this season.
3 first-round picks for the Raiders in 2019. Who do you think is going to have the biggest rookie impact, though?
I think their first 2. Cleveland Farrell out of Clemson, the defensive end, and also running back Josh Jacobs, because both of those guys will be the starters. Now, Abram is going to be a really good player because he's a fantastic football player, so you can't exclude him, but I'm going to go with Farrell because they need him to be that pass rusher, and Jacobs because they need him to be that bell cow.
Who do you think are going to be the X factors for this team under John Gruden to really step forward?
Colton Miller has to be one. They drafted him in the first round last year as a tackle. They need him to be a premier player this year in year 2. And Arden Key, they need him to take a significant step in year 2 to be a good pass rusher. Because let's say Farrell struggles out the gate. If Key isn't being a threat, now you have 0 pass rush. So they really need Key to take another step forward this year.
Obviously, a lot of extra eyes on Oakland this year. They're going to be on Hard Knocks. But who do you think the surprises will be out of camp that people might not know?
Brandon Parker, I think, the offensive tackle of North Carolina A&T, is going to have a better year. And they're going to surprise them with how well he played this year as opposed to last year. And I also look at Tyler Romer, undrafted free agent of San Diego State, was one of my top tackle prospects in the draft class. Defensively, Dylan Mabin, undrafted rookie free agent out of Fordham. Great ball skills, good athleticism, can play inside or outside. It's going to be a surprise.
What are the reasons for optimism and concern by the Bay for 2019?
Speed. Let me tell you what they have right now at receiver.
Is it speed?
It's speed.
Okay.
They have Antonio Brown, they have Tyrell Williams, and they have J.J. Nelson. So they got a lot of guys that can stretch. They have a running back that's good in making people miss. The offensive line, I think, should be better this year. Defensively, they've gotten better. I thought they started to play better down the stretch last year. So there's a lot of good things to be optimistic about in Oakland. Cause for concern, let's say Josh Jacobs, who's now the full-time starter in a role he hadn't had at all since high school. So we don't know if he can handle the load of being a full-time starter at the NFL level. And defensively, the Cleveland Farrell selection is going to be one that looms large for them. They really need him to be the difference maker, considering who else was on the board at defensive end. So those are some of the concerns I have for Oakland this year. Emery Hunt-Thazar, the Playbook here, and joining me now is fellow football game plan analyst Troy Anthony for this 4 Downs with Thazar segment, continuing with our preview of the Oakland Raiders. As we take a look at the road to the Super Bowl for the Raiders, let's start in the backfield. They drafted Josh Jacobs in the first round. They didn't really have a running game to speak of last year or the last couple of seasons. If the running game can be what they expect it to be, if Josh Jacobs, who never started a full season at Alabama, who never ran for more than 20 yards, he only had 1 carry over 20 yards last season, which is bizarre to say. He's never been the bell cow. If all of those outliers can prove to be outliers and he can be the guy and be John Gruden's version of Charlie Garner, or John Gruden's version of Michael Pittman and bring that balance to this offense, Raiders offense could be scary because there are some weapons there on a perimeter and there's an offensive line there in place for a guy like Jacobs who can make the first guy miss be successful. So if Jacobs can prove to be worth that first round pick, Raiders offense might not be a problem like many seem to think it will be.
Yeah, we'll have to see, because one of my issues is there's a ton of new people on this Raiders offense. There's new tight ends, handful of new receivers. Is Carr going to have the chemistry with these guys? Carr has to stop throwing interceptions as well. He needs to cut down on them a lot. Last year, he threw 18. The year before that, he threw 7. Oh, I'm sorry. Last year, he threw 10. The year before that, he threw 13. He needs to develop chemistry with a whole bunch of new people while also cutting down on the turnovers.
I think defensively is where the Raiders really should make improvements. Jonathan Abram, outstanding safety from Mississippi State, your classic strong safety. Now, they drafted Cleveland Ferrell in the first round, pick number 4, and that raised some eyebrows. But you have Maurice Hurst, you have P.J. Hall, you have some options out there. I love what they did last year with Nick Nelson. Darian Conley played really well last year, quite honestly. Defensively, they got to be better. When the Raiders were in the Super Bowl, when the Raiders were threatening to be in Super Bowls, defensively, they were good. And I think if they can get back to rushing the passer, let's see what Arden Key can do this year in conjunction with Cleveland Ferrell, who they drafted 4th overall. Let's see if they can get pressure coming from the second level. Let's see if that secondary can turn the ball over. Let's see if Abram can make that much of a difference versus the run. So defensively, if they can get better, I think that's going to help their offense. So I like Derek Carr, and I like what they have on paper on offense. Tyrell Williams comes over from the Los Angeles Chargers. So if defensively they can get better, in this division with the Chiefs, what the Broncos look like on paper, and with the Chargers, the Raiders could be just fine this upcoming year.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next point. They have to find a way to get to the quarterback. I think Gruden messed up when he got rid of Mack. Last season, they only had 13 sacks. Now, this is a division with Pat Mahomes, with Phillip Rivers, quarterbacks who are going to kill you with the pass. And they only had 13 sacks. If they're going to have any type of success going forward, they're going to have to figure out how to get pressure. I believe that's why they drafted Ferrell. Even though there was a lot more, Josh Allen was still there. Ed Oliver was still there. We're going to have to wait to see what the jury says on that one. Montez Sweat. We're going to have to see what the jury says. But they have to figure out how to get to that quarterback because they just didn't do it at all last season.
If they can't get to the quarterback and if they are not able to have balance on offense, it's going to be a problem. But with the additions they've made this season in the running game, at pass rusher, in the secondary, along with what they do special teams wise, I think the Raiders may not be as bad as people think, and they could find themselves playing bonus football this upcoming winter, deep into the winter in February. I have the Raiders finishing 4th in the AFC West. I think offensively they'll be much better than people will give them credit for. So I think this offense will be able to put points up on the board. It's still yet to be seen how well they will be able to get to the quarterback, but I do believe you'll see them blitz a lot, which could cause turnovers because they now have the guys on the back end that can do so. This, to me, is a 7-win team that could flirt with 8 or 9 wins if they can find a pass rush. So that's it for this season preview. I'm Emory Hunt, the czar of the Playbook. Be sure to follow me on all of our social media accounts. And don't forget to check out and subscribe to Football Gameplan Podcast on iTunes, where you can find our NFL All 32 podcasts, our fantasy football starting lineup, as well as our Scout Team podcast, and leave us a 5-star rating. Also, subscribe to the Football Gameplan Network located at youtube.com/footballgameplan. Finally, every Thursday and Friday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, be sure to check out the Football Gameplan show on the Game Plus Network. Check with your cable provider for channel listings.